big old nice piece of meat. So we'll cut this sirloin to show you that. And there's a few options here, but this gets more technical. I mean, there's all these, you can keep getting deeper into how do you want to cut things, how do you do things. If you were talking about prosciutto ham, using absolutely every bit that you can, I can cut this bone off along here, and it's a hip. You can see it moving. I can remove this, and you can leave the sirloin on, and all this, and this whole thing would be a ham. You can cure that as is with every bit of it possible. Often people just cut right here and call this a ham, and like the other day when I cut for you all, I cut the shank off and then like shortened it to get like more approximate weight for what the interest is. But something we can do with the ham, and I think I'm going to show this as well real quick, is you can seam the muscles out. And that's a great technique for deer, and particularly beef. A lot of things come from seaming muscles, which means finding their joints and separating them at the joint, and then you can do a lot with it from that point. So let's start with getting your sirloin, which we're going to do. This is a little bit arbitrary, but we're looking for like an angle across the top that's kind of like perpendicular to the way that the ham runs. That we're going to saw, and then we're going to saw right through the hip bone, and that frees these two halves up really nicely. It's unnecessary to do it exactly like this, but it gives you a consistent result of how you're separating these things. So we saw through that bit of bone, and then we knife on down. And so this piece here is the sirloin. You may decide that, I think if you're going to run that egg, you might want this piece and like a little shoulder piece and do them both at the same time, because you might not be able to feed everybody that extensively from this, or you could choose a big chunk of ham too.
I think this and the shoulder, because we just had
So I would recommend go for this. This right here is the sirloin, which the idea of that is we have the hip bone here, the pork chops are running there. Under the pelvis here, we still have similar muscling that's tender and nice, but it doesn't work as well for chops anymore. So essentially, we're isolating this part with this sort of special muscle group and calling it the sirloin versus the leg. Okay. If that makes sense. So on beef, this is a sirloin, but it's going to be like this, and we can cut sirloin steaks from it.
And would you, with something like this, would you start it? I know you've got to rotate. Would you start it skin up or skin down?
Well, if you're rotating, then I don't know that I have that big an opinion. Certainly, as much of the time where the fat can drip over the meat seems better to me.
So skin up as much as possible.
Right, but and those green eggs, as far as I know, there's not a lot of direct heat, right? Like it's not like there's not coals below it.
Yeah, you can set the screen on it.
So do you even really need to rotate it, or is it sort of like the heat goes? So then I would say probably just keep it with that skin up the whole time and let the fat just drip over this meat, because there is pretty lean meat under here, and that's why I think this will be a fun one to try, because you could dry this lean meat out if you did it in a way that kind of doesn't let the fat go all over it, you know? But I think it'll be like cooking a loin, kind of. Like the fat can drip all over it and keep it all very moist, you know?
Would it pull apart at the end?
Do you mean
keep going,
eggs,
but
like
I think you
farm
might
eggs?
stop
Big green
at a point where you can slice it.
It's a kind of ceramic grill.
Oh, yeah.
It works like a convection.
Okay.
You know? So you can keep going and going until it like sort of just falls apart at the seams. But you could also stop it once you hit like 145 or whatever, and slice it and have like smoky sliced. Yeah. So this bone is funny. It's called the H bone. It's really just the pelvis, and we've kind of cut it in half. Part of it's here, part of it's here. And this is definitely one where you have to just learn its shape, because see, you never know. That's what you're supposed to cut if you didn't know it was there. But under it is just meat. So if you can find it and follow it, then you can cut a very nice section of meat out from under it. So that comes off. Inside here is just a little piece of meat, but then we're right back onto that bone again. So there's like almost nothing there. And now we're down to the pelvis. So one hog, we put all in one pot and make stock out of the entire animal. Have a whole bunch of broth that way. Now you all want this skin on. I'm gonna take, so this is a funny piece. So if we square that off, we're pretty much good to go here. When I do skin on, I just shave down those last little, any bristly bits, but that's pretty nice. One thing you can choose to do is score it like this, and then like this. And then you'll end up with all these like little areas that can break. And so if you want to do that, we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's ready to go, and I would recommend salting it and herbing it and all that, and then as soon as you can, before you cook it, and then cook it.
Dave?
Ja.
Ga je vanavond koken?
Vanavond?
Weet ik niet.
Morgen?
Sounds like vanavond.
Morgen. Ja, waar is het?
Tomorrow's leftovers. Okay.
So I'm just trying to cut the skin.
We're going to Greensboro today.
Oh, good. More for the rest of us.
That's why they are, yes.
Ulterior motives. Ulterior motives.
I'm just scoring through the skin and just like a little bit into the fat. And it doesn't look like there's a lot going on here, but as soon as it starts to heat up, it's all gonna like suck apart, and you'll end up with all these little squares that are.
That's what I did with the ham, put the little cloves in between.
Yeah. And so yeah, you could do that. You could